Hi,
Hello,
I'm Julian.
I'm Coach Tom.
We are Team Binge. We are here to discuss Ted Lasso, Season 3, Episode 7. This episode is called The Strings That Bind Us. And now that I'm reading that title, I'm realizing what the reference is, having watched the episode. And it's problematic, bothersome. It hurts a little bit, I guess, is how I would say that. But very interesting episode. Tom, did you have a good time with this one?
It's Lasso. I still have fun. I love all these characters. I don't think this is probably my favorite episode of the season. I mean, we get some very heavy moments with Sam's storyline. We have kind of Ted implementing the total football and the kind of some relationship stuff. So I felt like the heaviness of what they try to do with Sam, plus the relation stuff they were doing with both Jack and Keeley and Nate and Jade, which we'll get into, I felt was kind of a little much, and some of it was a little bit forced, I think, in my opinion. But I mean, again, it's still a lot of fun. The training sessions they had, I think, were definitely my favorite. How about you? What do you think?
Listen, yarn and genitals will always be in a top spot for me. They hold a special
That was your
place.
band back in college, right?
Yes.
Yarn and
Genitals, yes. We were a cover band of mostly Christian music, so that's okay. Didn't get a lot
That's Yarn and Gentiles.
Good. Very good. I like it. All right, we're starting off. That's good. That's good. All right, well, we'll dive into it. We'll touch on, I don't know, we'll wrap yarn around all of it and I guess tug a little bit and see where it all goes. But we started with like a weird, I didn't really understand this. We start with like a montage of, hey, come visit London town. Like there's a bunch of shopkeepers doing things. I didn't understand this. What was happening here?
I mean, it's restaurant week, I guess, but they just used all the B-roll footage they had of the small town London with them opening up their awnings, putting out their umbrellas, just flipping their signs. Like, it was cute to see like the little bits of London, but they were very, very heavy on this B-roll.
Yeah, for an episode that was, I don't know, 3 hours long, I didn't feel like this was necessary. I guess it's trying to put us in touch with the fact that Sam's restaurant is a pivotal part of this. Mm-hmm. But yeah, so I was like, oh, I'm watching a travel show. This is lovely. Sounds good. This is broken up, of course, by Jamie in, I want to say, a bright pink, like, sweatsuit. Yes. That said, like, fabulous on the front or something like that, as he's pulling Roy, who's riding a bike like one should.
This is great. This is kind of like what I mentioned earlier about Roy wanting to do the least amount of effort and put Jamie through like more of it. So now that Roy can at least balance on a bike, he's got him on a string being pulled by Jamie, which is great, right? The string that binds us, name of the episode. We get it right away.
I just couldn't get past the sweatsuit. There was something about it, which, once again, I know I'm in like jail for commenting on the women's fashion in this show, but I want people to know I'm also I have issues with Jamie's choices as well here. Although I would say if I had this, I would probably wear it.
Looks so comfy.
Which transitions me to the next part, which is Keeley and Jack. And Jack's vest. Jack's vest looks like it is Han Solo's vest for a giant. That's what it looks like. It's... Anyways, okay.
I was thinking more like Boys to Men. It had like a Boys to Men vest vibe to me.
Okay, that's fair.
Because I sung in third grade talent show. I sung Boys to Men. Sang. I don't know how you say that on stage.
Either, right?
I made one of these vests. Yeah, either or. But I made one of these vests and I rocked it and it was great. I don't think I still have it.
Boys to Men should have probably been what I chose when I said Yarn and Genitals was a cover band. It should have been a Boys to Men. I think there's probably some strings you could tie there. Anyways, Jack is all about giving first edition Sense and Sensibility books to Keeley. And Keeley's like, oh, I really love the movie. I guess I understand the storyline that happens in this episode. I kind of feel like the show is doing a little bit of a disservice because this is not the relationship. It's fine. It's nice that they're, it's developing, but this is not where we want Keely's relationship to go as viewers. I don't know. We want her back with Roy. So did we lay the groundwork in this episode for this relationship to go bad? Is that kind of how you felt this going?
I think so. It is interesting you say that because I feel like there's multiple relationships throughout this show that the audience seems to want, like with the Ted Becca stuff, with Roy and Keely, that they are just not really tugging on quite yet. I mean, we got really nothing in this episode from the Ted Becca thing, and we've only got 5 more episodes left if they're really going to go down that route. But I agree. I feel like, and we'll get to it maybe when Rebecca kind of brings it up, but they laid the groundwork here for Jack, but she doesn't seem to be in the same vein of Rupert. So I don't think it's going to go in that same direction, but maybe similar to bring them apart in some way.
Right. I feel like, don't take this the wrong way, Jack, but I feel like Jack is just like a plot device to slow down like the inevitable of who Keely ends up with, if that makes sense. This is like a filler because I don't think this is forever. I don't know. That's what my Sense and Sensibility told me, is I didn't think this was forever, but I could be wrong.
Yeah. I like her as a character. I think she's very genuine in things that she's doing, but I mean, I don't know, like a super rich person buying a first edition to somebody that, I mean, I'm sure Keely appreciates it, but that's not something that she probably needs or really wants. And then she kind of like quote unquote defiles it by writing something in it. Like, I don't know, maybe donate some money to charity in Keely's name as opposed to doing this very expensive joke. I don't know.
Yeah, no, the human fund. Yeah, you're a real George Costanza over there, Tom. All right, let's go to Sam's restaurant, where he goes into his own restaurant and he's begging for a table. And this, I believe, is a writer's way of telling us that the restaurant's doing well. They're all booked up. Yeah. There's no reservations, even for the owner. There's no reservations available. And then we get the chef who's known as Simi, I believe. I found her very mean to Sam. I found her angry and mean to Sam.
I think Simi's awesome. Like the fact that she's just calling him out, calls him poo-poo head, which I thought was like childish but hilarious. I know your son would probably have loved that. Yes. And then the fact that she's the lead chef and is constantly getting the affirmation from her fellow chefs and having them scream, "Yes, chef." I mean, I love that dynamic in a kitchen. It's great. Yeah,
I liked the restaurant manager he talked to in the beginning. I don't know that we know her name, but Simi, I gotta be honest, Simi scares me. She's like shouting. She's watching the news in the kitchen, which I don't know how I felt about this. Like they take kind of a serious subject and they make it very I don't know, they simplify it to the point where it's just like I didn't understand this storyline, this through line in the episode.
Yeah, the whole idea of the defense minister denying these Nigerian refugees and refugees and immigration, it's a very big issue and there's a lot of nuance and stuff to it, but the way that the episode kind of treats it, it's very just kind of black and white. And I don't know, this to me I think I like the idea of the storyline. I like where they end this, where they ultimately get the team together and help out Sam. But so much of this just kind of feels forced. Into this, especially into this episode that has some lighthearted moments with the relationship building and then the coaching stuff. I don't know. Again, I like the idea of what they're doing here to use this platform to, have Sam be a voice for the marginalized, right? Because we saw this in the first season. Right. He put the tape over his jersey for the cerulean oil or whatever it was. But it just came on so fast and seemingly is going to be tied up in this episode only, and we probably won't hear about it again.
Right. Which is, I think, what they did with, if I recall, cerulean oil did not last more than an episode in terms of, I mean, give it to Sam. He's solving things, He's solving big oil and he's solving refugee immigration law. So I don't know. As someone who's not allowed on Twitter, I found the Twitter battle that happens in this episode a little bit confusing. But the big thing here is the restaurant's doing well, and Sam's dad is coming into town, which our interaction with Sam's dad previously has just been through text, right?
Correct. Maybe a phone call that we've kind of like listened into, but yeah, they haven't featured this actor yet. Which I love
wonderful.
This guy when he comes on.
Yeah, I'm remembering Sam on the exercise bike being yes. taken to task by his dad over the ceruleum oil stuff.
Yeah.
We have a team meeting, and this is great. This feels like Coach Beard was volunteered to be an infomercial salesman, and he's like selling you a VHS tape on Total Football. And all of you can be a part of this, and then you go out and sell Total Football to 3 of your friends, and sure enough, everyone gets rich. But we have a lot
of triangles mentioned in the last episode, right? Maybe it is a Ponzi scheme.
Yes, and triangles are just another form of squares. Tom, did you recognize all the names in the video? Because they kept dropping these famous people names, and I was like, ooh, I bet if I knew anything about soccer, this would mean something to me. Like they mentioned Pep, and I was like, I know Tom's talked about Pep before, and I guess Jamie was coached by Pep. Were you just glorifying and all of the Total Football of this VHS tape that Beard presents?
I definitely knew Pep Guardiola, we saw last season. He actually made a cameo, I believe, on the show. So that's why they're kind of using him again, and was the coach for Jamie. I didn't know, I think is it Johan Cruyff, for which gets corrected by Jan, which
Jan
is good.
Would correct you probably, but he declined to be a guest on tonight's podcast.
But I like the idea of Beard like probably purposely mispronouncing it, not to like to throw the scent off of him actually knowing Dutch.
Good call. I didn't even catch that. That's beautiful.
Yeah. But yeah, it was fun. It was just like a PowerPoint presentation of all this, which is actually kind of cool to hear about like the history of Total Football and how it's kind of morphed. And the way they do so much on this, I'm wondering if, especially kind of towards the end where you get the Trent Krim saying, oh, it's all going to work. Like this will be the crux of Ted Lasso, like bringing in the positive mindset for the past 3 seasons and developing his own version of Total Football, like they kind of mentioned Pep Guardiola doing for Manchester City.
Sure. The strategy is going to take months to implement. But Ted's like, we're going to do it this weekend against Arsenal. And no one seems to be on board.
Yeah, like Roy, I think, was the first to come in and mention, like, yes, we could do this. It's going to take us months, but we're going to get there. And nope, Ted's not having it. He doesn't have that time.
No, he does not.
3 seasons.
And everyone protests. But Ted has a safe, foolproof, whatever that phrase is, to shut down any protests. And what is his line?
Your butts.
Yes.
Hush your butts. You, hush your butts. Hey, hush those butts. A lot of butts being not hushed.
He said it once and I started laughing, and then he repeated it and used different versions of it, and I wrote it down. I was like, oh, I can't. I'm going to use that on my kids, and it's not fantastic. Going to work because it's going to cause them to laugh. I'm excited. Anytime Ted gets to flex his coaching muscles and hush those butts, I get excited. So...
Well, and we get a lot more of like Ted coaching, right? Like we haven't gotten a lot of it. He's just kind of been there on the sidelines. Seemingly Roy and Beard are doing everything. So right. I like the idea of this episode allowing Ted to kind of flex the coaching muscle again.
We go from the team to the law offices of KJPR, where Barb notices the first edition of Sense and Sensibility. And this gets weird. Keeley... doesn't want to tell her that they've been meeting. I guess this is all her trying to hide the relationship, which I don't know. I don't feel like Keeley's a closed Sense and Sensibility book. I feel like she's an open Sense and Sensibility book. So I found this conversation, or maybe it's just because it's Barb. I once again, this part of the episode I found puzzling.
I think it just took her off guard. Like she didn't know really how to answer this because she never thought people would ask her about it. So when Barb kind of came in and saw the book, she didn't know how to react. So this is what she did. Because I think later on when Jack actually kind of confronts her about it, Keeley even mentions like, listen, everybody always knows everything about me. I don't know what to do here. So it's just a little bit of a panic, I think.
Sure. I was surprised she didn't close the blinds in this situation and just be like, I thought these blinds would protect me from you guys knowing about me and Jack, but now that you've seen the book. Yeah. So we cut, and it's been a while since we see him in his element, but Coach Nate the Great, doing, I guess, some hard coaching at his desk. I don't feel like football managers spend a lot of time in their office at their desks in the middle of the day. They should be on the field telling the team to just run the whole practice. I'm sorry, all of training. Is that what it's called? Yeah, training. But
no, that's what I have disco for.
Yeah, Coach Disco. Which there should be a public outcry. We have not gotten any more of Disco since his intro. Like, what happened there? Did that actor, like...
I don't know, man.
Oh, man, what...
We need more. We'll get more. We have to. You can't introduce
so?
a character named Disco and not give him a scene at some point later on.
I don't know. Anyways, Nate answers a text from his family that everyone's getting together.
Yeah, I guess his sister's in town, so yeah, they're getting a family dinner. I love this little bit here where he does the "Hey Siri," and then Siri responds by saying, "Yes, Wonderkind." So he had set Siri to reply and call him that, which is great. You know, you also clearly have the Apple product placement for an Apple TV Plus show, which I always find funny. But when I was listening to this on my iPad or watching the episode again, when he said "Hey Siri," it literally triggered my Siri on my iPad.
Really?
I laughed out loud.
Yeah, I have their phone, but I don't have any of that stuff set up, so I never use it, and it won't respond because I can say Siri all day long. Yeah, my phone doesn't look at it. It's just laying there, impotent.
What's your dog's
Siri.
name, isn't it?
Siri. No. My dog's name is Bandit. That's a different name. Oh, great. Now that's out in the public. Now they know. Now they can get at him. I would like to read a statement in this moment. I would like my dog Bandit to have some privacy. He's a private fellow. He is part of the Blue Heeler family. He's the father. Anyways, let's talk about Bluey. We're at the pub. May is letting us know that business is bad when the team loses. No one shows up at the pub. I don't know. Do you believe this? Do you believe that the pubs... do you believe that she can blame it all on the team losing, that she's losing patrons?
In the middle of like the afternoon, I feel like you need to do something else to try to bring in, the butts. She's got to do a better job of not hushing the butts, whatever the opposite of hushing the butts is.
Oh, you do a wet short contest. That's what you do. Wet shorts contest. And then you get some unhushed butts and seats. That's how it works.
Like a Wednesday afternoon wet shorts competition.
Yeah. You just get to sit in soggy shorts and eat fish and chips and drink your warm beer, I think is how it works over there. I don't know. I've never left the U.S., so...
There's probably something to it, though, like in terms of the game days. If I think we see it later when they start getting their butts kicked by Arsenal, then some of the patrons start leaving. So I can see some of it, and she's just probably looking for somebody to blame, just like the pub crew is.
And they come at Ted with such force. They've realized that going soft on him is not working. So they come in real hot, and it's great to see them all back.
It is, yeah. Them interacting with Ted and Beard, and then like his lines like, "Listen, we've humanized you, and we've lost all objectivity," and then just boom. I like how Beard gets like upset and like almost stands up here because we know like Beard had the night and outing with all these guys, so he's probably closer to these guys than anybody else.
Right, and then as one does, Ted invites them all to training, and Beard takes a little bit of an issue with this.
Well, it's great, like, because Beard's like, "Listen, do you really want to have fans, be at our practice?" And Ted's line is fantastic. "Listen, it's their team. We're just borrowing it for a little while."
I loved it. I loved it.
Mm-hmm.
Yep. We go from there. We have Nate walking by Jade's place of work, which is not at all stalkerish. This is something that's romantic in TV shows. And the interaction with Derek and Nate was very funny. I enjoyed this. I like that I don't need a ton of Derek. I don't need to know his backstory, but he is a good time. And I'm glad that Nate, in all of his awkwardness, is being brought back into the show more and more. Not evil
agreed.
Nate, but awkward Nate.
Yeah, we're getting a turn for Nate right here, right? So I'm glad that they did this because we only have so many episodes left, and we've always thought that they're going to turn him around. So I like what they did to help, again, continue to set the path for Nate to come back.
When he's redeemed, do you think they will dye his hair back to a darker color, or do you think they will keep it as the snowy mountaintop that it is?
That's a good question. I feel like at this point he's committed, and it is what it is. Like he'll try to pretend it's natural.
I'm going to predict they shave it into a mohawk and dye it like platinum blonde. That is what I'm predicting.
I'm here for it.
We're at training. This is the implementation of total football, and there are 4 elements to this. Tom, I'll let you go through all 4 and explain all 4, if you would, please.
Yes, sure. So this first session we get is number 1, conditioning. So that's where he's having him run, or Roy's having him run all these different laps, which is a great little bit. And the next training session is versatility, number 2. Then number 3 is awareness. And then 4 is mystery. It's like one of those like lollipops that doesn't tell you what flavor it is. Then you open it up and it's lemon, and you're like, ugh.
Yep. Takes 2 licks and then you get to the center. Yeah, I know those. I know the type. I had forgotten that Roy just shouts whistle. He did it, and I don't know. I had a moment where I was like, what is he doing? And then I was like, oh, yeah, he doesn't use a whistle.
Allergic to metal.
Great callback.
Yeah.
They're like, oh, we can get you a plastic one. And then, like, hard cut. All right. We're at the law offices of KJPR. Keely explains to Jack how, like, awkward things were, I think, with Barb, and that she doesn't want people. And then Jack's like, listen, I'm get away with everything rich. So she just goes out and she explains to everyone that they are dating, and she's like, we can't get in trouble. We are untouchable. Which is just like the movie with Sean Connery and Kevin Costner. I think this is the same premise.
Field of Dreams?
No, Untouchables.
Oh, I'm sorry. I missed it.
It's okay.
I feel like...
We'll insert some laughter.
Okay. I like the funny bit of the on and off of the window. I thought that was pretty good, of Keely just panicking, turning it off, and then realizing that is just more suspicious.
Sure.
And then going back and forth. I appreciated that.
It is a good time. I love a good blinds sight gag where it goes on and off. The team is vomiting. While all of this stuff, all the heavy drama in the office between Jack and Keely is happening, the team is vomiting. Someone's been poisoned, right? Is this where we get our murder mystery?
Listen, this is some of the best vomit I've ever seen.
Ugh, just you talking about it. No, I won't do that.
This is the first sequence, I think, where they cut back to the training, and I think we see more fans joining the stadium, which I think is kind of cool. So like progressively, each time we go back to training, you see more and more of the fans in there. So I think it's kind of the cool idea that first it was just the 3 pub guys, but now kind of the word's getting out, and seemingly Ted, Beard, Roy don't care. They're allowing their fans to check out practice, which is cool.
Now, I know you are one that likes to frequent live sporting events, and correct me if I'm wrong, I believe you have been to an American football game featuring the Arizona Cardinals, and in an intimate setting you were able to shout at the players. And I believe you got to shout at one Larry Fitzgerald once. Am I remembering this right, Tom?
You are correct. I mean, if you go and watch Larry Fitzgerald, spring training was this specific moment, you get to get rather close. And when Larry Fitzgerald is wearing those tight pants and you see the glutes on this man, you can't help but scream, nice glutes, Larry. So I let him know that what he's doing in the weight room is paying off, because this guy's got buns of steel.
Okay.
He does not need to hush his butt.
Oh. All right.
His butt does the hushing for him.
I felt like this was very important to have recorded and cemented in history, that this actually happened. And I believe that's when the legal issues started for you. And they have not allowed you back in Larry Fitzgerald Stadium since that moment. So
it was worth it.
I'm glad. Anyways, when there are people at these sporting events, that's where my mind goes to. What would Tom shout if he was there at that game? What would he be shouting at Roy? What would he be shouting at Jamie? Anyways, we see, they get Keely and Rebecca together. They're at a restaurant, and Rebecca makes a joke about losing Keely to another woman. And this is when they start talking about all the gifts that Keely's receiving. And, like, if Rebecca hadn't brought this up, would you have felt differently about the stuff that Jack has done for Keely? Like, taking her to Norway, giving her the book. I think there's mention of maybe some other gifts. Would you have thought that all strange if Rebecca didn't come up with the term love bombing and this conversation happening?
I think I would have, like, especially I think later when we get the flowers, all the daisies, whatever, put in her office, like that is a bit much. Get her a thing of daisies, don't fill her entire room of it. And again, like the book being such a ridiculous gesture of like opulence, like you didn't need to do this. Keely's not that kind of person, which also kind of shows me that Jack maybe doesn't really know Keely as well as certainly we know Roy probably does. So I mean, I wouldn't have put a name to it. I like this idea of love bombing, and then Rebecca saying, you know, the people that name stuff, and then we eventually find out that Keely probably is one of these theys, which was good.
Sure.
But yeah, I think I probably would have picked up on it. I don't know. What about you?
I mean, I don't know. It just felt like a rich person being a rich person. It wasn't like a red flag for me, I guess. Part of me is like, I wish I had a Jack in my life with that large vest and those flights to Norway. I don't know. I don't need the books, but you know, the flowers would be nice.
You, my friend, are a gift giver. You are very kind and generous to people and close friends of yours on birthdays, and you are very kind and nice when it comes to gifts for others. So that's probably why you don't see it as a bad thing, which I love about you.
Oh, that's fair. That's fair. I am pretty great. So yeah, that's a good point, and that's certainly not a weird red flag. I obviously have never in an argument been like, well, Tom, I got you that sweater you wanted, so I win this one. Anyways, gifts are just something I hold over people, Tom. There, that's recorded, so you can have that one. Speaking of shiny things that tarnish, that's Rebecca's line. She's like, shiny things can tarnish, don't ignore the red flags. She brings up how, I think this is where she talks about Rupert, like buying her things, and then makes the correlation for Jack paying for everything. And then Q, the restaurant person, being like, oh, Jack's already taken care of everything. And I love what Rebecca does. Rebecca's like, you can have a bottle of champagne. I'll have a bottle of champagne. We'd like some tiramisu. Let's run that bill up. I love that she did that.
I love how she says to the waitress there, like, hey, you can get one yourself as well. And it's like this fancy, crazy bottle that, I mean, I don't know, if I were acting and having to remember this line, I probably would have butchered it, which I love. I love Rebecca here. But what do you think? We touched on it briefly in the top. Do you think they're going to turn Jack? I mean, I can't imagine into a villain. She's not going to be like the Rupert type from what we've seen so far. But do you think they're going to give her some kind of heel turn, or eventually will this just be too much for Keely and she'll break it off? Or do you think they're going to live happily ever after?
I don't know. I think in the same way, like Zava was not a villain. I think the show's smart enough, and the show is based in some sort of reality, despite the psychic stuff. Where I think it would be very strange for like Jack to have a moment where she just like turns completely villainous. So I think this relationship will probably just peter out, and it will peter out hopefully in a way that leads Keely back to Roy. And that is only because, as an audience, that's what I'm rooting for. You know, I liked them together. I hoped that they, for the sake of both of their happiness, like find each other again. That's not to say anything against Jack. It's just I don't have 2 seasons of emotions that are tied into Jack's character. You know, I didn't even know she existed until 4 episodes ago. You know.
They have still given us little breadcrumbs about her potentially coming back to Jamie, right? Like, I'm wondering if they might do that. If you talk about Jamie's arc, which I think arguably is probably one of the better arcs throughout the entire series. Sure. I think it could be interesting if she does end up back with Jamie, because he certainly is a changed man. Sure,
but where does that leave? Where does that leave Roy?
Miss Bowen.
Oh man, Miss Bowen. And the Irish accent. Let's just sit and think about how glorious that would be. Roy and Miss Bowen. He would coach the kindergarten soccer team. She would teach the kindergartners how to do math. What a beautiful life they'd live.
It is interesting to think, like, they've given so many characters so many different, like, love stories, and, like, I mean, because Miss Bowen, I think maybe they didn't lay it heavily romantic, but they gave it more.
I think I spoke that into existence. I don't think the show kind of hinted at it, but it didn't go.
Yeah. But like the Sam and Rebecca stuff, obviously the audience wanting the Rebecca and Ted deal. It is interesting that this late in the series, we're still kind of playing this guessing game on the relationship stuff.
Right. Well, that's what makes these shows fun. I do think, I mean, the Sam and Rebecca, I'm surprised that's not what people are rooting for. I see that as a much more likely scenario than Ted and Rebecca. I don't think
for them to go romantic.
Yeah, I don't think that one makes sense to me. Maybe Rebecca and Ted move in and like have a platonic relationship where they raise this football team together, but I don't think I don't know that the romance is going to be there. I don't know.
But I feel like, again, talking about the romances, I feel like they've given Sam like a romantic storyline with Simi, right? Like
Sure.
It seems like they are kind of getting along, and that might be explored there. So it kind of gives, I don't know, not Sam an out, but it's putting Sam on a different path where the audience isn't saying like, Sam is obviously such a remarkable person and guy throughout the whole series. You kind of want the best for him, but you could argue maybe him ending up Rebecca isn't the best for him, or I don't know.
Sure. Well, those are our strong predictions. We just told everyone what was going to happen. So I don't remember what I said, but I'm sure it's going to come true.
Get me Will Trent, ABC Tuesday.
I don't even know where he is.
Will Trent is back.
You thought you could hide forever? Time to come home.
The series that's being called one of the best network procedurals.
We're going to solve this case.
Featuring new cast member Gina Rodriguez.
I'm a prosecutor. We deal in truth and facts.
Maybe everybody should try that, huh?
Will Trent, the 2-part season premiere, begins Tuesday on ABC and stream on Hulu.
We're at the Shelley house, which is... There are a lot of callbacks in this episode, which I appreciated. We have the niece that loves making a fancy box, and so she has essentially a birthday cake fancy box.
Yeah.
And Nate is asking his mom and sister about, hey, how do you know if a girl is into you or is just being nice to you?
You can't.
Apparently.
I get the same response from his family that he does from Siri.
Right. Which just lets you know that Siri's always right.
But I love how I think it's the mom or the sister eventually asks, like, hey, we got to bring Dad's map out. And Nate has never seen this. And it's, the adorable map of the dad asking the mom out, saying, like, how far away they were. And it was cute and adorable. I don't know why they're so keep this away from Nate, like he can't know about it. Like, I feel like it's a cool romantic gesture that kids should probably know about. It was cool. I liked it. I also thought it was fun to be able to see and meet Shelley's family or Nate's family, right?
Yeah.
I think anytime you want to ground a character a little bit more, you just show him with his family and show him that he's not the monster that he is when he's around Rupert.
Right. What I think is funny is we've met his parents before, and the dad, like, there's a distance there and him trying to prove himself to his dad, but the rest of Nate's family seems perfectly lovely. Like, and I'm not saying the dad's bad, but so to your point, it does, like, bring you back to the, oh yeah, we like Nate. Like, Nate's good people. Why did the show make him Darth Vader for, I don't know. Anyways, that was a Star Wars reference, Tom. Darth Vader. Anyways.
Never heard of it.
We're back at Sam's restaurant, and this is them once again pushing the immigration issues, and Sam's reaction, and I believe Simi's reaction of them disagreeing with how the mean. I thought she was the prime minister. Was she the prime minister or...
It was defense minister. That little paper that Simi throws down in the beginning says defense minister, immigration plan, blah, blah, blah.
Got it.
But ultimately, Sam's idea here is to engage on Twitter, which, again, for a popular, sports athlete, like taking to social media is probably not a bad idea to kind of push what, you believe and think is right. But, I mean, as we've seen before, putting stuff on social media, sometimes can go sour, which we'll see here in a bit.
If that was another shot at me, Tom, I won't recognize it and I won't respond to it. You took the password away.
Still getting letters from the Justice Department. Thanks.
Man, I just wanted to know when they would discuss the Harvey Dent law. That's all. That's all I wanted to know. Anyways, Nate and Jade. This is where I think Nate shows up at the restaurant and he almost asks her out. And
yeah. Did you notice too when Nate comes in, he introduces himself. He's like, Nate, and then he goes and says like his line. So thinking that Jade doesn't remember his name.
That's
so
great. But then he's like, I need to do something first. And he goes into the bathroom and he stares into the bathroom mirror. And I'm pretty sure I verbally was like, no, don't do it. Don't spit on the mirror. It's so weird. Don't spit on the mirror. Was I the only one? Did you have the same thought?
Everybody watching this scene was saying the same thing. Like, you knew where he was going, you knew what he was doing, and I'm like, okay, cool. He's going to go in here. He's not going to spit on the mirror. And thankfully, he didn't. And, again, this is, I think, officially signifying the turn for Nate.
Okay. So you don't think there was one weirdo out there in the world being like, yeah, spit on that mirror? You don't think they were...
Oh, there are definitely weirdos out there that wanted that for sure.
All right. Well, we'll go at them on social media. I'll just need the password, Tom, if you could. I think it's important that I have it now. If you could just text it to me or think about it. Give it some thought a little bit.
I'll give it a think.
Okay, thank you. Speaking of thinking, we're at training, and it is team lesson number 2.
Versatility. So this is when the players are going to swap positions via the little note cards that Roy's going to hand out.
Yeah, this is like a party game where they're like, hey, you get the card and it has like a famous person's. But this was more fun because the team members get to do impressions of each other. And I think the star here was Will and Beard swapping places.
Oh, that was so good, man. Like that long game of like, okay, you see Beard in the background doing the fumbling of the water bottles and everything, and Will is dressed up somewhere like Beard. And then when they do kind of cut to eventually, oh my God, is it so great with like that brown duct tape on his face and screaming the Beard line, like, let's go, baby. So good. And I feel like that's going to be my Halloween costume this year.
Oh, I will be the Trent Krim to your Coach Beard, if that's what it takes.
I mean, I have a beard, and I feel like I'm going to shave my beard to then put brown duct tape on my face.
Tape it on. That's great. We find out that Jamie gets Jamie. Did we understand what was happening here, or did we? What lesson is Jamie supposed to learn from this? Did you? I did not pick up on what was happening here.
Yeah, I don't. I think ultimately the writing here is just so Jamie can be Jamie at the end of the episode at halftime, where he kind of says, you got to play through me, not to me, or whatever it is. So I think this is a means for like the coaches to say, okay, you're the star forward, you don't have Zav anymore, just keep doing what you're doing. But Jamie is the one that ultimately recognizes that is not how we're going to play total football. You can't be 10 guys doing this. It's got to be all 11 guys on board.
Right, because Ted's line to Jamie is, oh no, you just be Jamie and score goals. Like that's what you're supposed to do. Okay, I follow. There's a moment here where Beard throws a water bottle to Trent Krim, which is just lovely. Just a fun.
There's a couple moments throughout this episode where they do this. I think later on there's like a oneer where they're all like passing around the water bottle and flicking it around and the camera never cuts. So I feel like there's a handful of deals in this episode where they're just kind of having fun. And I'm sure it took them quite a few takes.
I'm sure there's a lot of behind-the-scenes footage of water bottles being thrown.
Yeah. Are there bloops for this show? Like season 1, season 2? Did they ever come out with any? Because I feel like if they haven't, that's a missed opportunity. That'd be great.
I don't think I've seen a gag reel for Ted Lasso. No, but that 100%.
Okay. If it's out there, share it with us, folks.
Yeah, you can reach out to us and tell us it exists, but don't tell us where. Let us hunt for it. You can reach us at teambingepodcast@gmail.com. And also, when Tom gives me the password to the social media, I will give that out to everyone as well, because I think that's what you do. In order to interact with people, you give the password to your social media to them? Is that...
Correct. And then they reply to you in your own DMs, correct? Yeah.
Okay, wonderful. I've got it. I think that's maybe why my password was revoked the first time, but it was so long ago. Isaac takes a corner, which I thought was... I didn't know where this was going. I was like, oh, they're going to make him really good at corners, but instead he doesn't take corners because he's so powerful? Is that what I'm supposed to pick up from this? Because he almost kills... Leslie Higgins, we don't see him in any of the other episode, but this where he spills the tea. And I don't mean tell secrets. I mean he literally spills his tea.
Yeah, I love this idea of it hitting, and the way they framed it too, where it cuts to Higgins just drinking the tea very slowly in the room, and you can see in the background the CGI ball coming to hit the glass and then spilling it. It's just fantastic slapstick comedy. I also love the line you get from the pub guys. It says, just a bit outside, which is that Major League reference. So I loved it.
Okay. I'm going to disagree with you that ball was CGI'd. I think all of the show's effects are practical. So we'll have to look that one up. Mm-hmm. We're in the locker room. I don't know. There's something about having to read someone's messages on their phone in a TV show. I'm just like, listen, I'm here to watch a show. If I wanted to be on my phone, and then I'm on my phone in the middle of watching a show. But Sam reads the shut up and dribble tweet.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, Julian came here to lead, not to read.
Not to read.
But yeah, so this is, I mean, a direct take from like the Laura Ingraham Fox News anchor attacking like LeBron James and telling him like, listen, shut up and dribble, stay in your lane kind of a thing. So they didn't even like coyly kind of play off this. They ripped it straight off. I actually did see a tweet today that had LeBron James wearing a Richmond like hoodie. So I'm wondering if he like either coordinated it or knew that this episode was going to have this, or just found it afterwards. But yeah, I mean, again, I'm all for the activism of athletes. I think it's using their platform to be able to like push something that they are passionate about. I think it's great, and I think people that are trying to shoot them down are terrible, because it doesn't matter if they are an athlete, that they have a platform and they can speak their mind, just like news anchors on some of these. And I use the word news anchors kind of lightly, pushing a specific agenda. It seems so hypocritical to say an athlete can't do the same. But this is the type of stuff, to me, that was just so heavy-handed and was kind of tough throughout the episode, where they're just pushing this specific storyline so hard that, like with the oil stuff we talked about in the beginning, I don't know if it could have been done any different way or a little bit lighter, but it was, I mean, I don't know, just jarring, I guess.
Oh, it could have been done differently. And I'm on the opposite side, Tom, on this one. And I'm legally obligated by the Justice Department to say this, but people should not use social media to go after the powers that be. We should all just shut up and dribble. What I didn't think made any sense is, like, shut up and dribble applies to basketball, but it doesn't apply to soccer. So why would they tell him to shut up and dribble? It's not like he's bouncing the ball around. So this didn't
I mean, you do dribble with your feet, buddy.
I'm sorry? Excuse me? What?
Are you... Am I touching on something? You do dribble with your feet.
Oh, sure. I mean, if you're talented, I mean, you gotta... How do you bounce the ball? No. This doesn't... Anyways, let's move on. That doesn't make any sense. You can't dribble a basketball with your feet. All right. Trent questions Ted, and I don't remember what the question was about, so I believe...
It was about the total
about number
football.
4, right?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I think it's about the idea of doing total football, and is the team really ready for it? And then I don't think maybe he does ask about the number 4 bit at this point, trying to figure out what it is.
I don't remember. I was too focused on Will sitting in Beard's chair doing a great impression with his legs up on the desk.
Reading a book.
And it's been a long time since we've gotten a hard F word on the show, but Beard uses it when he tells Will to get out of his chair, which was a very funny moment.
Well, I guess you should preface it by saying the F word that's not from Roy.
Right. Yeah, those I'm kind of
Those
immune
don't count.
to at this point. Those are not jarring. That's just normal speech. We get a couple of quick cuts, and we have Jade looking for Nate. He's apparently because he left the restaurant after going to the bathroom. Which I felt a little bit bad for Jade in this moment because she's clearly looking for Nate, and then also we have Keely receiving just a boatload of flowers filling her office.
Yes, too many flowers. It's gonna get you allergies.
Oh man, tell me about this. Yeah, this. I used to think allergies were just something that people had in their brains, but recently discovered that no, allergies are real and they hurt and they're not fun. So I apologize to all those people that saw me with my allergy sign on the intersection talking about the lies that were allergies. I've recanted and now I believe in them. Training, team lesson number 3, Tom.
Yes, this is where we get awareness, and I would argue probably the funniest sequence throughout this episode.
Funny? Painful? I don't know how to describe it. We find out that soulmates are connected by a red string in some cultures, like stories. And so everyone is connected by their ding-dongs via red yarn. And Roy's giggling, I felt was real. I don't feel like this was acting. I felt like Brett Goldstein was just like, I don't know if he wrote this, but it just felt like he was laughing. So I like the fact that the team is like a little bit like surprised that they're like, hey, why are all these things? But like there was a time where all those had to be tied. Like who did the tying? Like, is that the trainer? The team trainer's like, hey guys, I need to. And then they had to all be on the middle of the field, so they would have walked from the locker room already tied up, or did this occur on the field? Tom, I have so many logistics questions about the tying and the yarn. I would love to be a fly on that yarn, and figure out what's going on here.
It is, this is something that you probably don't want to think about it too much. But
I've been thinking about it a lot.
You're like one of the pub guys. You're holding onto the string right now, and you're trying to figure out what to do with it.
And just offering it to people in the stands. That was great.
Yeah. But like the way it's shot too, where it's like a close up of the players, and then as Jamie's like asking, "Hey, why are these things tied to our ding dongs?" It slowly pans out, and then you see the yarn like just on the ground. It's so great, and I loved every minute of it.
I would love to know what the yarn budget was for this episode, because they probably did this in multiple shoots, so they had to retie for every scene. I'd like the behind the scenes from a showmaking perspective of, did they have to have an intimacy coordinator tie all of the penises? I don't know. Jamie almost loses a penis. I'm sorry. Let me rephrase. Jamie almost loses his penis in a freak accident. Which
is somebody else's. He didn't misplace somebody else's. It was his own.
Sure.
I thought you were going to rephrase to ding dong instead of using penis, because I know you don't. I know that word.
That's true.
It's difficult for you to say.
Well, it's a scientific term. I think kids can learn it. Who knows?
But this is, just the way this is acted, and like he slowly pulls his pants and is looking down, and even like Rojas next to him also seeing this, and like then reiterating to everybody, it's okay, his penis is okay. It's just, oh man, just so great. And if you notice too, like when the yarn or string, whatever, eventually pops off, it is tied in a little lasso, which is also kind of funny, Ted Lasso, that they're all literally tied up. It's pretty good.
Oh, man. And that means they cinch when they pull. Ugh. Okay, let's move on. But not too far, because we get the moment where Ted runs out onto the field and hits a string. And the two guys go down. I don't remember. I think it's Isaac and one other guy. But, it's so good.
And then you get more Roy giggles in the background, which, again, this is funny. We get it later when Roy is cracking wise with the other coaches, but how Roy is infected by Beard and Lasso at this point, right?
Right.
Like he's having fun, he's giggling even over the pain of his fellow players here, but it's great. It's fun to see him open him up more.
Sure. We've got Will going through the locker room with one of those claws that old people that can't bend over anymore use to pick things up. At the same time, Sam is firing tweets off at the Minister of the Dark Arts or whatever it is. Whoever at Hogwarts runs immigration. I don't know. Nate, we find out, has left Jade in order to make a craft box in order to ask Jade out. And the person that I watched this episode with saw this as a over-the-top, not necessary gesture. She was not on board with what Nate is doing here. How did you feel about this craft box, Tom?
I mean, I agree. I think it's a bit over the top, but I think he was going for the grand romantic gesture that his dad did with his mom, with like the map. So he kind of wants to have his own version of that map story, but ultimately is not needed.
Okay, I disagree. I would love for a complex diorama to be given to me that's made out of love, but it is what it is. Tom, I'm gonna have to step out of fashion jail here, because this next scene is out of this world. Because we're back with Keely and Jack, and Keely has just come off the polo field with this furry, like, helmet hat thing. It looked like something from Austin Powers. What was going on? What was she protecting her dome from and with? It looked like she murdered a stuffed animal and stretched its skin over a helmet. Like, just insane stuff going on with Keely in this hat.
Yeah, it's a bold choice. I feel like if she loses this hat, birds might find this hat and make a nest out of it.
Oh, I mean, yeah, that or fight Squishmallows with it. I don't know. Hopefully Squishmallows are evergreen. Otherwise, that reference isn't going to make sense when people listen to this in 30 years. Is Jack is like, oh, Keely, I got you something. And Keely's like, you're coming on too strong. No more gifts. And she's like, oh, I just got you a croissant, however you pronounce it. I don't know. And it's like a funny gag where, oh, she didn't get her anything serious. But guess what? There's a ring inside that croissant. So hopefully Keely's got good dental insurance, because who's biting into a croissant filled with gold rings?
Yeah, what if she would have swallowed this? That would have been very dangerous. This is, again, it's silly. I don't think. Again, if they're going to try to make Jack be like this love bomber kind of thing, and this is going to push them away, I guess they want to just do it every single scene they have. They're going to have her doing this, but this was a bit much.
Yeah. And then Keely puts the ring on and disappears. And then we go from there to Nate and Jade. And Nate, as one does, is crossing the street with his love trophy in front of him, trips, and it very promptly gets run over.
Now, I must say, like, Nate is no Tobias Funke when it comes to fall acting. I felt like his was a bit poor, and he could have worked on it a little bit.
Not a pratfall guy. All right, you've heard it first. No. Tom does not think that Nick Muhammad is a very good pratfall guy, which I understand he's referring to one Dr. Tobias Funke. And when he falls and Tobias slips and falls and his leg stays up in the air, I'll never forget that scene. You're right, Tom.
Exactly.
God bless Tobias Funke and all that he's done for medicine and people's health.
Yeah, he should have asked David Cross, the actor who played Tobias Funke, about a good pratfall.
These are all Arrested Development references for those of you that are confused. One of the best shows ever made. But he pushes through, and unlike Tobias Funke, he asks Jade out on a date, and she says yes. And they exchange no details. They just turn and go in different directions. They don't exchange phone numbers. They don't exchange anything. They just ask, receive a yes, and then scene ends. Thank you, show.
Well, Nate's gonna be there stalking her the next day anyways, right? So we'll just assume that's off camera.
Okay, that's fair. and not at all creepy. He's going to return with another box, probably slip and fall, and have that one destroyed as well. I'd watch that show.
Can I have your number?
The box has can I have your number? And then he gets the number, but then the box is destroyed as he's leaving. Yes, there's a good synergy there. Sam shows up at his restaurant. It has been attacked and vandalized. Scrolled on the wall is "shut up and dribble." This is sad, but once again, as you've pointed out, so heavy-handed that I had a tough time like really buying into this. I actually it caught me by surprise, my emotional reaction at the end of this storyline, like what the team does. But as we were getting there, I wasn't quite on board, but that's fine.
Yeah.
Let's go to the locker room where Trent is in a crazed moment here. He needs to know what number 4 means, and he's talking to... Is this where he's writing it down, or is this where he's like trying to figure out it from Ted?
This is where I think he's writing it down. So he writes down the first 3, writes down number 4, ... question mark. Like he's trying to figure out what it is.
Right. And I think we have a cut here where this is what you were talking about with the water bottles. This is, we're discovering the team is like a well-oiled machine. Now that their ding-dongs have been tied together and then are no more tied together, they are a well-oiled machine. There's a joke in there somewhere, but I'm not good enough to find it. So I did... There is a moment here where someone is like, this is where they're having the conversation about what number 4 is. And they're like, is it God? And they're like, I hope not, or something. And I was like, all right, thanks, show. Way to really take God out of number 4. For a moment, I thought we were going to get it, but no.
Do you know in the last episode 6, in the credits, that God is credited and it says God as herself?
No. But
I don't know why that was in the credits. There's no real mention of God, but it's funny. It's great.
That is funny. Sam comes into the locker room, and boy, is he steamed. He's like bumping into Isaac, which I don't know if you watched Isaac kick that ball. Isaac's the last person I'd be bumping into in that locker room. But he is expressing his anger about how stupid people are. And I felt like the main message was maybe right here, which is, this is what social media does, Sam. There are terrible people, and the platforms that they get to show their terribleness is typically social media. So lesson learned, stay off your social media. Tom, I'd like the password now, please.
Unless you're following Team Binge, then you can stay on social media. But follow us and nobody else.
I don't know. I mean, since you're not giving me the password, it's tough for me to really... I have no control. No, it's fine. Follow Tom at Team Binge. But just know that... Actually, you know what? At Tom in order to free Julian. That's what should really happen right now.
Hashtag free Julian?
Hashtag free Julian. Oh, no, please don't make that a thing. Sam's dad shows up, and this gentleman is... one of the largest humans I've ever seen, and he's also dressed like he is an extra on a Star Trek episode. Is that fair? Am I? I love the outfit, but oh wait, I got to go back to fashion jail. I'm not allowed to make these comments, so I'll go back to jail. Talk to me about this guy. I liked this actor. I think he did a great job.
Oh, I love this guy, and I'm sure I'll butcher his name, but I believe it's Nonso Anozie. But the first I've seen him was from Game of Thrones. I think he plays one of the like leaders of Meereen with Daenerys Targaryen or whatever. But he played just not a menacing character, but just such a figure because of his size. Was really, really good in that. And then I've watched him most recently in that show called Sweet Tooth. Did you ever see that? I think it was on Netflix, where he's kind of like a Last of Us kind of thing, where he's taken this kid who has, that's going to sound really weird when I start talking about the show. The kid has like horns, so he's like half human, half deer or something. But he's like trekking this kid across the country and keeping him safe. I don't know. Did you see it?
No. The only Sweet Tooth I know is from A Land Before Time. I do not know what the Sweet Tooth is you're referring to.
Okay. But great show, great actor. Love this guy, and he has a presence for sure.
And he's great here because he's like, listen, Sam, you know what you got to do? You got to forgive him. You know, don't fight back, fight forward. Oh, man. And forgiveness is a really tough thing to do when someone wrongs you. I've got some things to say. It's his advice is sound, but man, it's tough to do. Real tough to do.
I feel like your line is fight back against violence as opposed to don't fight back, fight forward.
Yeah. No, fight back with revenge is what my advice would have been. Hit him harder. I would be like, social media, don't use social media, use fists. That's what I would do. But I've never been in this exact situation before, so.
I do like how we get Ted kind of peering in on this father-son moment of them laughing and, again, getting amazing fatherly advice. And, for a beat before Ted just jumps in, he kind of peers over the window or the door or glass, whatever, and sees them. So I'm sure he's kind of thinking of Henry and what he's missing in that relationship, too.
From there, we go to Emirates Stadium, Tom?
Yes, this is where Arsenal plays, a famous Emirates Stadium.
Oh, sure. Oh, yeah. Forgive me. I thought this was a different... I thought this was the United Emirates Stadium. That's why I got confused.
Gotcha.
But we have... Keely, Rebecca, Higgins. Forgive me, Higgins does appear other than when he spills the tea on himself. Mr. Obasanya, they all meet up, and there is this awkward moment where Mr. Obasanya, who does not care that it's awkward, is like, oh, Sam's told me so much about you. Now, was this relationship developed to the point where Sam... Like, you took this as Mr. Obasanya knew that they were in a romantic relationship? Is that how you took this?
Yeah, 100%. Because I think they were on, enough dates, and it wasn't just, a one-night stand kind of thing until they eventually... Was it Rebecca that decided to kind of part ways with it?
Sure.
Yeah, so...
But no one else knew, right? Other than maybe Keely? Keely knows on Rebecca's side?
That is a good question. I don't remember. I don't think Sam did divulge this to the rest of the team. I don't recall where they went with that storyline.
No,
I think they did keep it.
I just meant, did Rebecca divulge it to Keely? That's what I...
Yeah, she did. I think it was at her father's funeral, whatever, where they're in the back room and she tells Keely, Sassy, and maybe her mom or something.
Got it.
Yeah.
Okay. Well, whenever you're in an awkward situation... and you don't know where to go in the conversation, we learn what to do in this situation, Tom. What do we do?
Just say, go Richmond, go Greyhounds, start cheering, for the game that hasn't even started yet. It was good.
Go Cardinals, go Glutes, go Larry. Whatever you want to shout in that moment, it will make things less awkward.
Yes.
Arsenal very quickly is up 3-0, and the team... for lack of a better word, sucks because everyone is all over the place and running into each other. It turns out having your ding-dongs tied together isn't a foolproof plan.
We get that line that the team sucks from the announcers, right? Where he says, how would you describe this? It sucks, Arlo. It just sucks.
Sucks. Which is great.
But you gotta admit that Richmond's looking fantastic. They got their third kits on because we've seen them in the bright orange and the kind of normal home blue and red kits. So to see these very bright and vibrant yellow and blue, I'm for it. I'd buy one of these jerseys.
And that's why they change up these jerseys, so people like you will buy all of them. And
fact.
Capitalism. Anyways, speaking of capitalism, there's a moment here where we see the pub crew, and despite things being terrible, they're oddly calm, and this was like them, I guess, reaching some sort of zen moment where they can calmly watch their team be absolutely destroyed. From there, we go to halftime in the locker room, and everyone is mad at everyone. There's a joke here about, Ted gives this really long speech about facial hair. And I don't know if it was because it was the 55th minute of a 60-minute episode, and I have the attention span of a mid-30s-year-old man who probably looks at his phone too much. But long digression about facial hair. a comment is made that if he had grown out a beard, him and Beard would have looked like a ZZ Top cover band. And the best part of this whole speech is just Roy being like, sharp dressed men. And Roy realizing, he's like, look what you've done to me. Like, I hate what you've done to me. And then Ted continuing this facial hair speech, and eventually, once again, I think
Beard gives a line. Yeah, Beard gives a line to call like a goatee something, and then Roy's kind of replacement for what Beard said was an ass squatch. And then again, he just mutters under his thing. He's like, oh, make it stop.
Yeah, he looks to the heavens and he's like, make it stop. And this is what you're talking about. We get like giggling Roy during this episode. Now he can't stop using like puns and witty lines that are just for comedic effect. And we love how the joy has overtaken Roy. I laughed. Once again, I laughed more at all of Roy's, what was happening with him, as opposed to the long facial hair speech from Ted. Not his best sports movie moment, but it was something.
I agree. It was a bit long and, I don't know, forced a bit, talking about it's not the Kings of Comedy. What were these guys? The Redneck Kings of Comedy, whatever they called themselves. But yeah, it was long, and I don't know, moving on.
Sure. No. Let's talk about this weird facial hair speech for... Let's all go around the room and give our impressions of Jeff Foxworthy's facial hair, as well as Ron White's and Larry the Cable Guy. Can I pull it off? What was the fourth guy's name? Crap. All right.
I don't know it. You're not going to help me.
Let's do the better sports movie moment, which is Jamie. Jamie gets his moment. And he dives in here, and he starts going into, you talked about it earlier, but hey, you guys are, play through me, not play to me. It sounded better in his accent.
But he like goes up to the board and he kind of moves the little things around, and like he's kind of defining what total football is. It's not, everybody has to play it. It can't just be most of the team. And I like how Rojas then eventually comes up and he's like, this is what number 4 is, sacrifice for the team. And then immediately Ted's like, no, that's not what number 4 is, which I thought was kind of funny. So it's like Ted is still keeping this in his pocket for some reason. I don't know why. And I'm assuming it's going to be a later thing for, I don't know, a revelation for Trent or his book or something else. We'll get in a later episode. But it is kind of weird that he creates a number 4 and seemingly doesn't know what it is, but it's just for, I guess, to pay off later.
Sure. The goal of this ultimately is that Jamie is not the one to score. He's the one to kind of conduct and orchestrate. And those are all things that are in symphonies. So...
Yeah, we got a line from the commentator. I think Arlo White actually says, like, it's a symphony of a goal. So it was cool. Clever, well done, good soccer acting. I liked it.
Yep, it was great. And then AFC pulls off the impossible and comes back from a 3-0 score to lose 3-1, which I appreciate about this show. Like the team losing, they allow it to happen. If this was a real like sports movie, they would have won this game. And when they told me it was 3-0, I was like, I don't know if any team is coming back from 3-0. So I appreciate that they're like, hey, there's one goal that's like a consolation to, hey, this is going to work, which is then what leads to Trent's enthusiasm.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and Trent gives this little deal about like the Lasso way, which, I mean, saying that, I'm assuming that's going to be like the title of the book that he's going to create. But he's talking about like the idea of the small changes that you've done across 3 seasons. Like that is your Lasso, like his version of total football. But like all of this is kind of weird to me because this just seems so out of character for Trent. Him being so like energetic
Frazzled
here at the end. And yeah, like I don't know what was going on here. My thought is he drank some spiked tea. So I don't know if he got it from the bus driver, from Beard, but he seems different, and I don't know what led to this. Yeah. Outside of, I guess, the symphony of a goal.
Trent's always cool, calm, and collected. So I think this was just, I guess, us thinking that Detective Trent, the Sherlock Holmes in him, has been trying to figure out what 4 is, and Ted won't tell anyone, and so it's driven him to some sort of madness, and now he's just trying to make connections because the way he describes all this, like the way Ted plays it as like, Ted's like, I mean, I guess, like, it's almost like Ted didn't realize he was orchestrating these things. And Trent's giving him more credit than is due here. So, and this, of course, ends with Ted saying, what a dork, but he's our dork. Which I do agree with you, though. This was a little bit, frazzled Trent was a weird Trent that I was unprepared for.
Yeah, just kind of came out of nowhere a little bit. But I don't know, like with them constantly losing, the idea of them ultimately winning the Premier League with the handful of losses that they've been dealt, I feel like is getting like kind of slimmer and slimmer. But my assumption would be maybe starting as early as next episode, we'll see them go on maybe a time jump and a run of wins if they really want to try to get back to the top of the table. In assuming that they're going to, I still don't think they're going to win it all, but have a chance to win it all. Yeah,
once again, winning isn't everything, and so I find it strange if that is the ultimate goal of the season.
I think it's a TV show, and they're going to. I don't, like I said, I don't think they're going to win.
Whoa! We're throwing out weird accusations like this is a TV show, and you're gonna say something like that with unfounded evidence. Go on, Tom. Cast your dispersions. What do you have to say that this is a TV show? I can't even believe
think they want to keep the general audience that watches and enjoys like sports movies, sports shows, wants to see their team succeed and do well. But we talked about many a time, we don't think that's going to be the message of this series. It's not about winning or losing. It's about being better people. So, but I think the show doesn't want to just have them be middle of the table. That wouldn't be as entertaining to watch. Or obviously get relegated again. That wouldn't be good either. Showing the team be successful using the quote-unquote Lasso way to get to the top of the table towards it, I think is a much more satisfying conclusion for the show.
Okay. I think the satisfaction is going to come in terms of the characters, where they land at the end of the season and how they've grown and become better people and who they end up with. And then there's going to be the scene where, they don't win it all, but they do fine. And then it's going to cut. And in a black running suit is Will the Kitman, who's now the manager of, I don't know, insert evilest premier team. And now Nate is running AFC Richmond, and he's got to go fight Will. And Lasso is, I don't know, making barbecue sauce in Kansas. I don't know. We get some quick cuts of the dates that are happening. So we have a lovely date with Nate and Jade. They both look great. Really appreciate everyone's fashion at that date. And then Jack and Keely are at Taste of Athens. It feels like they flip locations, right? It's like Nate and Jade are out on a patio restaurant, which looks very similar to where Jack and Keely were before.
Yeah, Jack and Keely want some divine baklava.
It's the diviniest, they say. So they went to the right place. The family of Athens really knows how to whip up some baklava face masks. Anyways, Sam and his dad are driving, and he's like, you want to see the restaurant? Yes, I want to see the restaurant. That's a pretty sure word for word how that conversation goes. And we arrive here, and the team announced in order to surprise Sam, they didn't know he was going to arrive, are cleaning it up, and I was surprised at how touching I found this moment.
Yeah. I mean, again, like all of this very heavy-handed stuff in the storyline with Sam, I love the way they concluded it here with the team just showing him the love and realize like, hey, we thought like what would help Sam in this situation and us being here and helping you out and fixing all this. And I love that like every player had like their deal to help, like Bumper Catches in the background fixing the tube lighting. Isaac's brother or something had a glass guy that didn't give him a discount because he's a jerk. Like all those little bits were fun and great. And it's beautiful. It's fun to see this team coming together. And clearly all of these guys are better people because of having Ted in their lives.
Sure. I agree. Once again, surprised at how touched I was by this. Simi meets Sam's dad. And I think she's like, oh, hi, poo-poo head's dad. I don't know. She's always so mean to Sam.
I thought this was telling in terms of the way Sam's dad, Ola, kind of presents this and says, like, hey, Samuel's told me so much about you, which is the exact line he delivers to Rebecca. So, like, the idea that maybe some of, like, the affection that Sam had for Rebecca and told his father about, he's also said the same thing to Simi. So the father also kind of coming in and realizing that Sam probably, has a thing for her.
What are the chances that this is just how he greets everyone? He's like, oh, Sam's told me so much about you. Like, that's something we say to people, and inevitably you like say it and you're like, oh, please don't ask me a follow-up about what I was told about you, because I honestly don't remember. So maybe it's just the dad being nice and creating conversation. Who knows?
It's possible. He didn't say it to Ted, though, and I would imagine Sam has said plenty about Ted to his father.
That's fair. Did you know were we supposed to know the restaurant was named after his father, or was this a surprise that the show has been keeping from us? Why was I surprised by this?
We had talked about it, I think, last pod or the pod before, where they kind of showed Sam and opening up his restaurant and naming it after his father. So, yeah, we as an audience should have, I think, known about this at this point. But
okay,
I like the way they did it.
You as an audience should have, but I cannot be held accountable for remembering things. That's not how this works.
I did tell you on this podcast. We can go back to the tape.
This
now I actually
podcast?
might go to the tape and cut it and then insert it right here. Actually, I'm going to insert it right here.
Sam bought a restaurant and is opening a Nigerian restaurant, correct?
Yes, which I think is kind of named after his father, Ola's.
Okay, cool. Yep. Nah, I don't believe you're going to take the time, so I'm going to go with the fact that we had no idea. I found this moment also touching, where he sees that, and I think it's funny that Sam didn't tell him. That's a fun little, father-son bit that happens.
Yeah, well, and it's when the light gets fixed, right? Like Bumbercatch fixes the light, turns it on, and then that's where he sees it. It's touching, and it's great.
Bumbercatch is a great name. Every time you say Bumbercatch, I get great joy out of it, so kudos to whoever named that character.
It's the Cumberbatch switcheroo.
Yeah, I used to have a Cumberbatch kid doll when I was younger. All right, they get into some cooking and some dancing because Sam's dad is like, I'm going to cook for you guys. And he goes into the kitchen, and he takes Simi and Sam, and they all have what seems like a lovely time, which is something that I've never experienced while cooking. Cooking seems hard. There's a lot of math and measurements, and you got to make sure you don't lose a finger. So I'm glad these people find joy in it, but every time I rip the cellophane layer off of a tray of mac and cheese, I always fear for my life a little bit.
This is great, though. It's very reminiscent of the Christmas episode they had, right, when the whole team kind of goes and has dinner with Higgins. So, all of them kind of coming together, just, nothing to do with soccer. It's just friends being friends and having a great time. It's great, and I loved the end sequence where it kind of fades to black with Sam and his dad kind of cooking in the kitchen. It was lovely.
I agree. I enjoyed this episode. Like you said, wasn't maybe in the top for me, but certainly the show is comfort food, and I found this episode a lovely batch of Nigerian comfort food. Tom, next week we're going to gather here, you and I, across a distance of what seems like 4,300 and something miles, just like the parents of Nate Shelley, and talk about next week's episode of Ted Lasso. And you've got the name of that episode all queued up for us, Tom. What is that episode called?
The next episode of Ted Lasso is going to be called Fragmented Soccer.
Fragmented Soccer. Okay, so you don't think total soccer is going to work out. You think it's going to go horribly wrong.
Yeah, total football's not working, so they're going to the American Fragmented Soccer.
Got it. I love it. They'll tie all those fragments together with red yarn. Yes, they will. All right. Well, for those of you that are still with us, we appreciate you. You can send us your questions, comments, keep your concerns at teambingepodcast@gmail.com. Tom will talk about all the other important stuff right now.
Yes, follow us on the social medias, on the Twitters, on the Instagram at Team Binge Podcast or Team Binge. And you can also get some merch if you want to go to TeePublic. That's teepublic.com. You can get some shirts and some other fun stuff with the Team Binge logo. And if you have the time and you like what we do, we'd always appreciate you going and leaving us a rating or review on Apple Podcasts or wherever you listen to us. It's been a fun season, and again, it's a bit sad that we're kind of heading towards the backstretch, but I'm excited to see where they take and land this plane.
Yeah, there's something about a show, like we've made some predictions, but this could go any which way. And maybe I'm just too dumb to see where they're going. But I would be interested, once again, if it's the soccer of it all that will be important, if it's like the relationships romantically that will be the end-all be-all, if they'll touch on all of them. I mean, that could be very satisfying, but I feel like this show sometimes withholds joy in terms of what we as an audience want, and I think that's okay. I think that's what makes it enjoyable to watch. So,
well, I also think that the idea that this was a 3-season arc, when they created and developed the show, they knew they wanted to do 3 seasons. And like what we've already seen with like Colin's storyline and Sam's and a lot of these other characters, there's through lines throughout season 1 and what we're getting here. It's not like stuff is just completely out of left field. The idea that they've put all these different like threads throughout is just awesome and fantastic writing, and likely a show you can kind of go back to over and over again and catch new things. That's I think one of the reasons why this show is so fantastic, when you have a plan coming in and you're not just flying by the seat of your pants.
yeah, we'll be interested. You know, I've watched season 1 a couple of times, and you are constantly catching things. I obviously have not watched this season more than the times we watch it for this, so it'll be fun to go back and kind of figure out where those through lines are. I will probably skip season 2, but I've enjoyed season 3 very much. So thank you for joining us. I've been Julian.
And I have been Tom. We'll see you next week, everybody.